Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Community Preservation Committee meeting of January 21st, 2014. Tonight we have Paul Nelson, myself, Harry Locatilia, Peter Burns, Elizabeth Davidson, Gary Fowler, James Demento, and James Davenport. Not attending tonight are Carl Schroeder and Ed Doobie. The meeting is called to order at 7:40 p.m. And without any further ado, if someone would be kind enough to make a motion.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
Motion to pay the bills by James. Seconded by Peter. And only two of them tonight. First one comes from not the Historical Commission, but the Historical Society. As you remember, they're doing the renovations over at the Samuel Brocklebank Museum. There's a letter. They have a bill for $26.10, and they've already paid $1,495 of it, and they're looking for $1,114 more. There's a letter from Society letterhead right here for you to peruse it. Looks like that, guys.
Yep.
All right, Betty, looks like that letterhead right there. Remember, this isn't the commission, this is the society. And the invoice is attached. Don't get confused, the invoice is over $2,000, but all that's coming out is $1,114, as you can see on the sheet. Any questions on that one, guys? All right,
Yep. I already looked at it.
to move on to the next.
How are we on the total on that?
On this one?
Yeah. 'Cause I thought that a lot of this got paid out already, or
This
or is that another
this is the
project?
original one
Okay,
from years ago
okay.
that had
So-
residual funds.
All right,
That's why it's being paid out.
okay.
Now close out. The one from, what was it? The one from 2013 fiscal year is closed. That's closed out.
Yeah, okay, that's the one
This
I'm
was the
thinking
one
of.
from 2 years previous
Okay,
that already had this is the one that had the grant restriction on it already.
okay. Thank you for that.
No problem. Anybody else on that one? Good. And the next one is from the Central Fire Department, and attaches the invoice. If you remember last year, there was a $7,500 grant to preserve the historic antiquities that they had over at the fire station.
Fire station, right.
I did not include it. I emailed out some pictures. I forwarded some pictures to you all. I hope you got them. I didn't copy them because they didn't print out well or copy well. They don't really show. Anytime you want, you can walk across the street and take a peek. It's right over there. At any rate, letter from Rusty Ricker, Central Fire, asking for payment of the invoice. Premier Builders did it. Little plug there for Premier Builders, I guess. What's your pleasure,
So you
folks?
took pictures of it, I take it you've seen
No,
it?
Rusty took pictures of it.
Yeah,
I
okay.
sent them by email. He emailed them to us. Yeah, I haven't actually gotten a chance to go over there. One of these days, I'm gonna get there.
I reviewed the picture. I have to assume it's gotta be fairly large?
You look pretty big in the picture.
Okay.
I got the email on me if you wanna look at them.
Oh,
No, it's okay.
Do you have it?
Yeah.
Could you?
I'll just move it on
No,
as
I'm
the
okay.
meeting goes.
Let's see.
I just was wondering if anybody had seen it.
Rusty did, and he's the president of the
Yep,
fire department, so I think we can take that as oath.
okay,
We do have that in writing.
Yep.
With his signature. It's the same as if any other department head were to make oath, as the legal term is, I guess. Anybody want to move that motion?
I'll move it.
Okay, sounds good. Motion to pay the bills as presented below by James, seconded by Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. I heard that is unanimous. And with that in mind, James, if you'd be kind enough to start it off. Okay. And where are we? Excuse me, that's the payment of the bills. Under correspondence, we have nothing. Under project suggestion reviews, our final project suggestion, Rick Umenhofer from the Georgetown Youth Soccer Association with the project suggestion from the GYSA. Looks like this, folks. I included a copy of it. Good with that?
I guess we don't play baseball anymore.
This is it. That's the project suggestions in your packet. And Rick, would you come join us, pal? Come on up.
I'd be happy to.
Rick was unable to make it at the last meeting, but sent me an email, said you were working on it.
I was out of town.
So, please tell us about the project.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate a few minutes of your time. So Pete and I are actually on the Georgetown Youth Soccer Association board, which is part of Georgetown Athletics. Our primary playing field is down at West Street, at the West Street Athletic Fields, which you all probably know. We're doing everything we can, working with Parks and Rec, to try to renovate that land, to try to make the playing surface more playable, safer for the kids. So we have ideas on how to make that happen, and that's more of a long-term plan. In short term, we have what we consider a safety issue with the parking and the access to and from the field. Okay, this has been an issue for a long time, probably since that field was laid out. I don't think possibly it was anticipated the kind of traffic that we would get in and out of that field, every Saturday and most Sundays. Right now, the issue is there's only one entrance and exit into that parking area in front of the field. It's that dirt gravel lot, if you're familiar with it. And there's only one entrance to the actual field area that an emergency vehicle could get through. And the issue is that the parking lot is small. We only have one entrance and exit, and that lot gets filled up, as well as on both sides of West Street, right around the field area, with cars from parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and all the players. And the issue is that emergency vehicles would have a very difficult time, if any possibility of getting in there if there was an issue. Beyond even just one of our youth players being injured, we have a lot of senior people that attend the games, a lot of grandmothers and grandfathers and older parents, and there's no shade in the field area, so in the late spring games and the early fall games, it gets extremely hot. We've had some 95-degree days, and people are doing the best they can to stay cool. I know of one situation where a grandmother did pass out from the heat, and we had a heck of a time getting an ambulance into the area, because the street, both sides of the street were lined with cars, as well as the parking lot gets so overrun with cars that it's just really hard to get in and out of there. So what we would like to do is double the size of that parking lot, which we feel is a relatively easy undertaking. There is a swath of trees between the West Street Road and the current parking lot. Most of those trees are dead. They're just kind of sticks in there. There's probably half a dozen to 10 large pines in there that are still doing pretty well. The idea would be to clear that swath of trees between West Street and the parking lot and extend the gravel parking lot out to the road. Okay. The plan would be to plant some fresh trees, probably some maples, something that will give us nice shade and nice appearance when you enter the athletic field area from the street, as well as do some type of minimal landscaping between the rows of parking. Hopefully to put some trees in there as well, so we can get some shade going there. That'll depend on budget. The other big piece that I mentioned is the entrance and the exit. Right now, there's only one way in and one way out. So when a game ends, or 2 or 3 game ends, because we can have as many as 3 fields running at the same time, all of those people are trying to exit the parking lot while the next batch of teams are trying to come in. I'm lucky we haven't. I think we're all lucky we haven't had any accident, or even a child being hit because there's so much traffic going on and the kids are running everywhere. The idea would be that when we clear that swath of trees, that we put in a second entrance exit, which would be a dedicated exit. So you'd have one way into the lot, and the parking would be aligned in such that the cars could park in and then back out and move, and then one exit coming out. The exit would be, I don't know, Tim, is that north, south, whatever, on the far end of West Street as you're coming down the hill?
Yeah, it's north.
So that as new teams are coming in, they're entering the parking lot while the other teams are coming out and going up the road. So you get a nice circle of flow for the traffic to come in and out. So I didn't bring any copies of anything, but if you guys can see my screen, right now we have probably that as existing parking. Okay, and the area that I'm covering is tree covered. So we would clear those trees, add 2, possibly 2.5 more rows of parking in there, depending on how it all lays out. And this is rough just from Google Maps and me kind of eyeballing what it would look like. So we double the size of the lot, and we would have both the current entrance into the lot and a new exit out of the lot. Okay. Cost for the project is still being determined. I have 2 companies out with quotes. They are waiting on me for prevailing wage information before they give me an estimate. But rough ballpark estimates are somewhere between $50,000 and $75,000. Okay.
So the project is basically to enhance the parking area.
It is. It is. There are additional phases that I can share at a later date, as far as renovation to the actual playing surface, and expanding that and bringing in some lights so we can extend the hours of play. But for right now, we think the most immediate concern is the parking.
Of course, the $10,000 question, you reviewed this with the water department?
No, this has not been reviewed. This is all preliminary.
Okay.
This was an idea that cropped up maybe 3-4 months ago at a board meeting. But this was something that we thought would be possible. We weren't sure how to fund it. Pete mentioned that we had a possibility to present to you folks and see if we can get something on the, what is it, a warrant? Whatever it is,
Right.
to get possible CPC funding to cover this.
Rick, you do realize that, this board would never move forward with a recommendation to town meeting for a warrant like that until we had something in writing from the warrant, from the
Water
water
Department.
department
Sure, I do
supporting the
understand that.
project.
Of course,
So that's gonna have to be
right, and probably the
in
Conservation.
really quickly.
Conservation Commission as well.
No, you're gonna be in, isn't that a notice of intent?
Yeah, you have to get an NOI on it because
Yeah.
it's, you have the turtle area over there.
That's your permitting. Yeah, you also have natural heritage.
But is that considered, is the parking lot considered a turtle habitat? I know the fields are.
It's where they go too. You can't put barriers so they can't get from A to B.
No, but I
That's
know
where
they
they wanna
map the
go.
turtles. I don't think there's ever been a turtle in
No.
the parking lot.
I haven't found one.
No,
I know they've been over there. I don't know where they're
Yeah,
at.
no, I know they always map. I know the first field, they're in that first field has been.
Yeah.
But I just, if they have, I mean, you're right, but if they're I know they take the eggs when they move them, and when they have the nest, they locate it.
When
I
they
don't know
can
if they've
find
ever
them, yeah.
located one in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Which would be an important thing to know.
Well, and if you go in front of Concom, you'll find out in a hurry.
Right.
So, another question I have is this a long-term solution for a short-term problem? In the sense that there's a lot of other fields in process around town,
Mhm.
and they're certainly not there right now, and some of them are dragging out like forever, it seems like.
Right.
But what would happen to this field and all the enhancements if everything comes to fruition as it's supposed to?
We still need this field
Do you
service.
think you still need it?
Yeah, so I also sit on the GAA board,
Mhm.
so we've discussed fields ad nauseum for the last 6-8 years. And the field enhancements that are finally starting to come to fruition are to augment this site. Okay. And more to your point, as far as a short-term problem, we know with the fields, the baseball fields at the Pembroke School, that now we're gonna lose access to those.
Yep, that's what I say,
We're
that's.
expecting baseball to come knocking on the door and saying,
Yeah.
can we have some of West Street?
Yeah, for the next couple of years, there's gonna be a dearth of fields around here.
Right.
Yeah.
So we expect more traffic,
Yeah.
basically. And that's where some of the discussions about possibly adding some lighting down there as well. Because we've got baseball that's looking for a home to play. We've got flag football that's gonna need a home for a couple of years while Pembroke is being rebuilt. You know, they're doing the best they can with American Legion, but there's only so much availability there.
Just for the record, we have asked multiple times over the last 20 years to increase the parking.
Okay.
And in those times, the water department told us no because, but there is a huge safety concern with the, not getting emergency vehicles into that. And I even asked them just to allow us to widen the pole distance, so, and they denied that, which was really a concern because it was such a safety issue. But what you're asking would be great, and the Park and Rec has always wanted to do it. It's never really got the support of the water department on that issue.
Okay.
But any increase in parking in that area would be an advantage.
Can I ask a question of the board?
Go for it.
What is the timeline for submission and your review and approval?
Well, according to what we have going right now, we do our monetary review on February 18th.
Okay. All right, well, I should be able to have the estimate certainly by then, because I believe all I'm waiting for is the prevailing wage information, so I can get that.
Did you talk to,
I was out of town
the
all
town administrator?
last week, too.
you should just send him an email, he should be able to send that to you. He
Alright.
does these bids all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. Who would actually, be, the Georgetown Youth Soccer Association would be the one doing the project, or would
We
we
would probably come under the GAA.
come under
the
the
GAA,
GAA?
yeah,
So you'd-
'cause-
we'd be looking at a grant.
Yeah, 'cause the GAA is the official entity within Georgetown, and then soccer and baseball and all that kind of children organizations under that.
Would it be easier to put this through Park and Rec?
Well, I mean,
that saves the grant
or the
agreement.
water department, truthfully, it isn't even the Park and Rec's land, technically, it's the water, but
Right.
any way that would make it easier, as long as I can let the Park and Rec members know and take a vote, I would assume they would be they would be in favor of any way to make it easier. If it made it easier to put the money in the Park and Rec account, and we managed it, and let the GAA dispense it as they deemed
That way we
appropriate.
don't have to do a grant agreement.
So, but, like I said,
Yeah.
the other side of it is, we've got a number of projects going on ourselves, so they would still have to be the overseer.
Okay, you have to get on Park and Rec.
No, I mean, we've got 3 or 4 projects ongoing that, we're trying to do the East Main Street, we're trying to do the playground, we're trying to do the pavilions, and.
We're certainly flexible as to whatever
No, but
relationship
it
works.
does, what Terry's trying to say, it makes the management of the money going to a commission easier than going to a private entity.
And that's fine, if we want to do that, and when we work with Parks and Rec to manage the project, that's fine.
Yeah.
More than happy to do that.
So Jimmy, maybe you wanna get back to us on whether
I'll
or
make,
not the
I'll
Park
ask,
and Rec would.
I'll ask the Park and Rec tomorrow, tomorrow's meeting, and get a, what's the word, a legal vote. So it's in the minutes of the meeting.
Okay.
Question.
Go
Has
for
it
it.
been the Park and Rec that has sort of taken care and maintained that area in the past, or have
Well,
you done
no.
it jointly?
It's, in the past, it was Dave Shaw was as a Park and Rec member 10, 15 years ago, but in the last 10 years, I think the GAA has taken over a lot more of the maintenance of the park, that area. There hasn't been a lot done because there isn't, I mean, there's been the sprinkler system, which
Yeah.
we've opened up every year.
Mhm.
But there hasn't been any allowance of slice seeding or any type of fertilization or any bringing any, allowed us to spot treat places with loam to get rid of some of the potholes, but, it's really, a little bit of work could make a big difference. The problem with that area is there's no loam, it's all sand, so, it's very difficult.
Yeah, and we have, the follow-on phases to this. One of them includes on the far end of the field area, there's an elevated U10 soccer field. And the idea of what we're thinking for that is, we don't know what's under that mound. We assume it's loam
Sand,
or
yeah.
sand. Would be to drag that elevated area out so it's spread out across the entire field surface. So it would actually serve 2 purposes. One, it would expand the actual playable surface and allow us to move fields around season to season. And 2, it would resurface the entire area, with probably 2 inches of fresh soil, which would be great.
So, Marblehead is.
Why do you think it's all topsoil?
It
I
isn't.
don't.
It
I
isn't.
I don't know what it is, but I do know that the field surface does a lot of this right now. So we'd be doing some regrading anyway. So if we're going to do that, The biggest issue is to increase the field surface and allow us to move fields, because right now, there's no area that we can rest during a season. Because we just, the way the fields are laid out, you just can't do it. So this
Well-
would give us more area to work with.
Well, I tell you what, you could ask Jim Bussing, I think he was the one on the bulldozer.
Okay.
And if his memory suits him, it's been a long time, but he may be able to tell exactly why they did that.
Okay,
I know that was a sand and gravel pit, there's no ledge there, because we used to target shoot there as kids.
okay,
But it is odd that that's the way it laid out.
right.
But he would know.
Yeah, I assume there was some reason, whether it was cost
Yeah.
or otherwise, that was the reason they did that.
Sometimes you just gotta stop pushing,
Yeah.
just stop somewhere.
There was a lot of movement of material to make that happen, because it was a gouged out side of a hill type of thing. It was a
okay.
pretty deep bowl. The other thing too is, we had looked at Marblehead years ago. Marblehead was called a green tea, or organic tea on their fields, right on top of their water supply.
Mhm.
And we had gone a number of times and asking the water department to allow us to do something like that, and they've always denied it, so I'd be interested. I think they've always been worried about contamination of the water source, which is, I think, in everybody's interest not to happen.
Yep.
But there's a number of cases where people have gone in and put in some organic soil that they've actually,
Yeah, there's a few towns
Manage
that
it.
do that.
and I think it would be good for the town to do that. It'd have to be monitored, of course, but
Yeah,
at least, it needs to be done. I mean, it's,
right. But that's, I don't wanna get too far ahead of ourselves. You
Right.
know, Phase one is let's just fix this parking issue.
Who are you getting quotes from, Rick?
Valley Tree and
No, what engineer?
from Valley Tree?
Um, Well, you're gonna end up before Concom, you're gonna be looking for a curb cut, you're gonna be,
Well,
Yeah,
I'm thinking I need engineers on this, just somebody to clear the lot and extend the gravel.
I'm just thinking you might. need
Generally
an
want a
engineer for
drawing to
permits and
work from.
stuff.
And it's supposed to be an engineering quality drawing, although occasionally people come to them hand-drawn.
Okay, maybe I've oversimplified it. I pictured guys with chainsaws.
Talk to Brzezimski, and you might, given the kind of
They may
project we
Or do it on
have.
a Thursday afternoon.
they may want
Thursday
drainage,
afternoon.
they may want drainage too.
He may just say we get by with something a little bit less, who knows?
Okay,
Thursday to Sunday, you can pretty much do anything.
Yeah.
all right.
Okay.
Well, get back to us with a letter, and, from, the water department,
Okay,
and a quote, and hopefully soon you can just email us
sounds good.
And, can anybody think of anything else? Any other pitfalls that?
So we're just dealing with phase one here.
Right.
Yeah, and I had a, excuse me, I had a, just an impromptu conversation with the water superintendent after one of our meetings here, and kind of just talked a little bit about some of the basic tenets of the project, and he didn't see any real major snags, and they were very willing to take a look at anything we had and be able to review that, and
Great.
no real red flags from what I could tell, so that's a
Okay.
hopeful sign.
That's hopeful.
I'm sure that's reflective of the commissioner's stuff.
And I appreciate your patience too. This is my first time doing this, so I'm sure I'm missing a lot of steps. So I appreciate the coaching.
It'll
Gotta
be a
start
learning
somewhere.
experience. Good luck.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. Appreciate it. Good job.
Rick, one last thing, you might wanna make sure that, your estimate has some engineering in it, just in case you have to go before some of the boards.
Yep.
To get permits.
What's a safe number to, get an estimate?
Yeah, you gotta talk to an
In the past,
engineering
it would-
outfit.
You sent
But
me
it's
a
water
grant.
department, I mean, losing it, Lou
He's an
Mammalette
engineer,
is an
right.
engineer.
Yeah, he
So
might
you've
be
got a
able to-
stamp right there.
If he chooses, it might be a conflict, but he could also give you a number of engineers that would be good for a project of this scope.
It's not a conflict when he's doing it for the town.
Okay. I'm, like I said, I'm not saying it was, I'm saying I didn't know what the rules and regulations are going in front of a permitting board when he's actually part of that process. They may ask the water department for a recommendation, and he's doing the drawings, that seems like a tough one.
Sorry, I'll reach out to the GAA folks. I'm sure they have engineers they've worked with before and try and figure out what
Make
the
sure you add
fields.
those numbers in when you know, over and above the actual bid of the job to do the job.
Contingency.
Then you have to have the engineering that allows you to do it.
Okay.
That's one of the things the Park and Rec ran into with the American Legion Park.
Yeah,
Turned out that they an extra, what is it,
I don't know what she's
$20,000,
coming
$30,000 for the permitting.
Really?
Go before Concom.
All right then.
That was
That's a significant
my
amount of
question,
money.
you may wanna change it then, it was, what was the figure that you threw out earlier?
The rough
50
estimate that he
50 to
gave
75.
earlier was 50 to 70, but that's a rough estimate, and we're gonna get real written estimates.
Okay,
We're gonna get two?
I won't make no
And then
notes.
we'll add 20 grand on that for permitting. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
New business? Any that anybody has?
Yeah, new business. The Georgetown, I might as well throw it in now, the Georgetown Historical Commission has changed our meetings from the third Thursday of the month to the fourth, I'm sorry, the third Thursday of the month to the fourth Wednesday of the month.
The third, from the third
From the third
Thursday.
Thursday to the fourth Wednesday.
Fourth
Subsequently, that
Wednesday.
means we're meeting tomorrow.
Lucky guy. I get to go to a meeting too.
Consequently, though, that
Consequently.
means we have not met this month, and we have not met since, due to the holidays, we have not had a monthly meeting since November.
So is this your roundabout way of saying that you don't
Do
have the
not
letters
have
of
the
support?
letters,
From
because
from
we
the
have not
project?
met as a quorum.
More than understandable.
But we're
So,
meeting tomorrow, so we'll draft the letters this week after tomorrow's meeting.
Would you be, well, when we get them, I'll send them out.
Yeah, I'll send them
Send them
out.
out.
Can you refresh us what those letters are for?
So- Sure.
The
You're
first
gonna go, or
meeting.
you want me to go?
Go ahead.
Oh, so the letters are will be from the members from the Georgetown Historical Commission, of which we'll have voted on pro or yay or nay on the historical significance of the the Merchant Marine flagpole
Okay,
and the Pond View fence.
on view fence, okay, I don't know.
And we've already
Oh, correct.
submitted a letter for the
Okay. That's-
Harry Murch pole light
Okay.
Flagpole,
flagpole.
right.
That's all, I have,
So that's just new from the Georgetown Historical Commission.
okay. I knew one of the two, I didn't know the second, and then you said more than one, I just.
Right.
Great. Old business. Draft warrant articles for the annual town meeting 2014. Possible CPA appropriations were submitted. Long story short, Gary can probably tell us better than anybody. My understanding is the warrant's open.
We opened the warrant at the last meeting, yes.
Okay. What I've done is sent an email to Steve Smith and some other folks.
Saw a copy, yes.
You saw a copy of that. Basically, it looks like this, folks. In essence, this is the same thing that I do every year. I take each and every project suggestion that we've gotten, and I create a placeholder for them. I think I actually have warrant articles written for all of these, but right now we're in placeholders. And asked the chairman of the Board of Selectmen if he would be kind enough, and the town administrator to place these placeholders on the warrant, so that if the warrant closes, we can provide the information. I think I made it clear in the email that not all of these will be coming.
That
Some
was
of
in
them will
there.
be cut out, and that'll be done as we go through our process. You know, only the ones that we recommend.
Should there have been an article for
Payback.
the bylaw amendment?
Absolutely, and
think
I'm,
that would
I'm
be under this
getting,
though, right?
getting that. That's the next,
Okay.
I just wanted to let you know about,
Question on
Wasn't
this?
there a
Anybody.
question though too about the possibility of paying back some of the, paying down some of the, what's the word I want to use, not the grant, the bond? Kinda talked about that, I mean, would that require a warrant article to do that?
well, I could tell you that, where I put, remember we were talking about a number, a $10,000 number
Yeah,
to, manage the cost of the bonds, the load for the bonds, as well as the interest on the, on the, one of the bond anticipation notes. Essentially what I've done is that is included now. You know that first warrant article that we always use? The one that sets out reservations for the 10%, open space 10%, community housing 10%, historical?
So that's the
Where we make our
$10,000 that's
10,000
in?
where we make our 10% reservations. I added after that, a warrant article, a blurb, if you will, of that to pay off,
Okay, I
debts.
just wanna make sure we had a placeholder.
Right, for that. That's gonna be included, that would be in the general budget. That's your A.
Okay,
So, because, I mean, we really don't have too much of a choice. We have to pay the interest on our notes. In the same way that we have to reserve
but-
10% every year.
but if, for instance, if some of these, if we have excess money left in the fund and we wanna use that to lower the bond from its $800,000 maximum down to 5 or 6 or whatever we decide, we have the ability to do that in that warrant.
I believe that what I was getting to is, after we run our numbers and we make our recommendations and amounts for the projects that we're supporting and we're recommending, whatever excess we have, we can take that amount, plug that right into that general
Okay.
budget figure. Instead of the 10,000, we can make it, I don't know, 20, 30, whatever it is
Okay.
that we could
I just wanna make sure we
possibly
have the,
use, possibly to buy the bond down a little bit. And it
Okay.
would be there for that.
It would be, from what I understand, buying it down, because I did talk to Mike Farrell. He feels that, I believe what he told me was probably around March, we will be going out to bond on this project. I was getting the feeling that we weren't going out till a little while later, and we might be able to.
You're talking about the turf fields at the high
Yes,
school.
yes,
high
but
school.
he felt that probably around March. Just a feeling, probably gonna be a 10-year note. But he was having a meeting today, I was hoping for some information on it. I checked my mailbox down there before I came up here, there was nothing in it, so there's, but if it's coming up before the Board of Selectmen, I'll definitely let you know, so in case you want anybody wants to have some input there on it. But we may not be able to, I was hoping if the bond wasn't going out till later, we may not have to borrow so much. But it looks like the bond is getting acted on before town meeting.
10 years doesn't seem like too long of a period either. It's,
Well, I asked him about the length, and his answer, and this makes sense, was usually you try to bond something over the expected life of, sometimes what you're bonding is one way that you look at it. I guess this is a 15-year, but he said we can't go that long on this particular note. I guess 10 is the max. So,
okay,
We use the verbiage pay down. Would we have the ability to pay down the bond? Or would we have to reserve X amount until the bond could be paid? I don't know if you can make,
payments in full or partial payments?
right, I don't know if you can make partial payments, so we use we might have to just reserve X amount until Y amount equals full bond. So do you
That's
know if we
where
have the
that's where
I don't know if
say
we have the ability to
I
prepay a
will-
bond. So we
I'm
just
not
wanna
gonna
use, just
pretend
for
to
the
be a
notes, for
bond
the
expert.
verbiage, but, so pay downs really might become just setting aside.
Yeah, that would work
Or-
out too. I mean, if we could take a 10-year bond and my
Float
personal
them.
feeling is get it done in 5 or 6 even.
Right.
And still keep the other project, but if, like I said, if it's good projects coming forward to us, then we don't do it
Get
that
the
year. And
option.
then if we find we have excess that year, we put that in to pay off our debt fund, you know.
Right.
That might be another way of doing it. Then that money's still there for an emergency. I mean, if we had a real legitimate.
You can't deal with emergencies under
wouldn't
the
be.
It
CPC.
would be, okay.
No, it wouldn't
Oh.
be, because if you reserve it for that, you've appropriated it for that.
So we might have to do that if we can't do,
You'd have the 3-year
Full
look down
pay down.
clause, so.
That's
might
not
have
in the
to
general
be-
budget, that's
All right,
under the
okay, okay,
reservations, that's for a
okay.
per se project,
All
yeah.
right, so no, that's good to know
Well,
that.
no, that's something we need to look to.
But you
All
couldn't disperse money anyway unless you went to town meeting.
Right, but that's what that additional, that reservation, so to speak, would be for.
For,
It's not a reservation, excuse me, that's the wrong word. It's actually an appropriation to pay off,
the
any
bond.
costs incurred by the bonds for those two projects.
Yeah,
for the-
specifically
the
for
s-
just the bond.
CR and the,
Yeah.
and the turf project.
Okay.
That was just how I worded it, but I mean, certainly when we start looking at it, in a couple of weeks, we can start looking at the actual wording of the bond, the warrant articles, and we can begin to tweak that wording. We can add one if we want, or a specific one,
No, I think, like you said there's ways to do it, so that's all.
seen that way.
Okay.
Sorry?
No, when you're done, and I have another question on this on the flagpoles,
Rock and roll?
if you're ready to move. Are you putting, I believe there's two different flagpoles.
Yep.
And are you looking to put them in one?
Absolutely, I wrote it as, both in one.
I see it says flagpoles, so
Yeah,
installation and
it
restoration.
just sort of makes sense that we're gonna be buying them probably from the same vendor. And, it seemed as though we probably wanna save the money. I don't know if you'd like to separate it out, I certainly
No,
can.
if that's what the board feels, I'm fine going forward like that.
How do you guys feel about that? Would you like to see them as separate warrant articles?
They're too small to be separate, I think.
Yeah,
There's-
I agree.
There's,
Yeah.
I mean,
And we're looking, the historic was probably gonna be in charge of both of them anyway, so it would make sense, I think, to do
yeah.
it. I just wanted to be sure that that's what we were doing.
Well, we don't know if they're supporting it.
Well,
may
if they
support-
don't, then it'll
May
be
not support
flagpole.
That's correct. We don't know if the
Then we'll change it.
historical commission is supporting the merchant marine flagpole yet, because although all of the members of the Georgetown Historical Commission are aware that the project has been brought to the CPC, we have not discussed it yet. We haven't met since, if I remember correctly, that suggestion came in the first week of December. We've been talking about it since around that same time period. We haven't had our monthly meeting yet in the month of January, so that's not until tomorrow.
Question.
I haven't heard anything from any discussions with just bumping into people or what have you, that anyone has raised an issue on the merchant marine, but I know everyone agrees that it's a good idea. We just have not come to a final.
You do have a
And take an
analysis on
official
it.
vote. Find out.
You do have a preservation plan you're gonna have to dip into. Whether it's part of the original preservation plan set for that, or it's not considered a major alteration.
Right.
I'm sure you can vote to change that.
Yeah.
Or to deviate from it, to augment it. Anything else, Gary, as far as, anybody, as far as, the placeholders?
Fine now.
Okay. Paul, you brought up, the bylaw amendment, the draft wording. This was also sent. I think if I sent these together in one, or if I sent them in separate
I think you
emails.
sent two attachments with the.
Did I send it to?
Yeah.
Okay, so, this was, submitted along with the, placeholders for the recommended articles, or the possible recommended articles. And, well, this is the wording that was approved at the meeting, at our last meeting. So hopefully, we'll be able to change hopefully the Board of Selectmen will put it on the warrant, and, we can change the bylaw and square it all up, bring it into, more of an alignment with the state law now that it's been changed. The state act was changed in 2012. I'll bring it up to speed, align the wording a little bit better, and clarify the question of overview as far as the bills. Any questions? You good? Next in the packet is the calculator sheet. We're showing, sorry for the size, you need a microscope, but I wanted to fit it all on. As you're looking at it, and these, right now, the only two projects that we don't have numbers for are the GAA West Street Field Rehabilitation. That's shown right down here on the bottom. That's undetermined right now. And the Camp Dennison paving. I sent an email to Steve Przymski asking him about that. I haven't heard back yet, but he was supposed to get back to us with some hard numbers as far as what that was actually gonna cost, as well as a letter from the Conservation Commission showing their support for it, because they're the management of, well, in the same way that the West Street fields are managed by the Water Department, Camp Dennison is technically managed by the Conservation
Yep.
Commission.
Mr. Chairman, the Pond Street fence removal, I know we talked about the 62,000.
Yep.
That seemed like an unreal number. Did anybody do any validation on it?
That number came from our highway department.
That's the number they gave us.
Wow.
We can vote anything we want, but, and I was surprised at that
What
value
you're
as well.
talking about, I believe the reasoning is they feel they need to do some fill. So I'm talking riprap, is that a proper name?
Riprap.
Riprap. And then it's not just taking down the fence, but it is going to need all new guardrail along that side. And some fixing up, I believe, of the guardrail or replacing it at the end of Mill Street. There's a guardrail. Presently, there's a guardrail down at the end of Mill Street along the pond.
Yep.
And then where the flume is, there's guardrail down there.
Right.
And it's felt that the whole thing needs guardrail. They've had the couple engineers come out and look at it, and I guess, or at least one, and they feel that it needs guardrail. I don't know if these engineers are in the position of selling guardrail, like that I don't know, or if they're just engineers, but most people feel it's a little high and a little extravagant. And
Well, you also have to bear in mind that it's a great pond, and it's certainly within the Concom's jurisdiction, so it's, you know, right top of bank.
Yeah, it's not coming
So-
in under Concom, it's coming in under historical.
Right, because it's restoring the historic Vista View.
They're still required to get a permit, correct?
I would assume
Oh,
so,
they're
yeah.
gonna need a-
So I'm sure they're gonna have to have a lawyer, and, you know.
Yeah, I don't think they would, I don't think that would be a big Concom issue.
Sorry,
Get it
I wish
environment
Paul was
engineer.
here to say that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not like you're destroying anything that,
But you
But-
still have
but
to
I-
go through the process.
you have to go through the process,
Do all
true.
the drawings,
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
engineering has to be.
Yeah,
The only thing I'm worried about from a historical perspective is there might be so many environmental and engineering restrictions. I don't know how much input the GHC can finally provide with those restrictions. Anyone have any?
Well, I mean, I've always said to Harry, ever since Groveland Bridge was, if you looked over Groveland Bridge, you saw that hill taken down across the way from the Merrimack River. I always said to Harry, we should have a Vista View ordinance in town, because just sooner or later, someone's gonna take down the hill up there, ball paint or something, to just clear cut it, or a section, some section of some side, and, or down by the highway, start raising, you know, so you're looking right at the highway, you're looking at the, and I've always thought we should have some sort of, just to protect those places. And this is a place, it's kind of a Vista View too, that, you know, there was a nice, I do agree with some of the people who live in that area. It was a beautiful drive and to look to the right and not see a stockade fence going along there.
Historically, it was a really pretty view. It
No,
was
I understand that. I
beautiful
just
view.
don't know if we can
You-
go
if you were driving down
1865
there-
on this
If you were
thing.
driving down there, you would have slowed down and looked. If you were walking, you'd stop.
Well,
It would give you pause.
there was some fencing along there, though. I believe this is much higher, though. But
There was a guardrail as a kid, you used to take your bike and they used to break every
But
20
there was some
feet.
chain link fencing with some gates, I remember,
Yeah.
because we used to, I
Well,
think it was the houses across, but it wasn't the whole section, I think it was one
Yeah,
house
it was
across
one.
the street had a section of chain link
very
Yeah.
short.
fence, because I asked them when they were there, some of their property deeds go out into the pond, they say, on the houses across the street. So,
Yeah, I know as kids, we used to hop the fence and get a swim and, you know, on our way to somewhere, cause,
yeah,
so, I mean, a little bit more dangerous now, but it's still.
why is that?
No, I'm saying, there wasn't, back then, there was a car every 20 minutes, not every 2, that's all.
Just so you know, also, the selectmen, I got a copy of an email sent to Representative Mira, you know, David Surface, I know, has met with him and is trying to see if the state can help us with it, you know, I said at the selectmen's meeting the other night, yeah, tell them to come help us fix the problem that they created, because we always got told that it was, the state did that engineering and said we had to have that fence,
Right,
that nobody liked.
Yeah.
At least I believe that's what we were told by Jack Moultrie, that's what the state engineers
what
said
we were
we
told.
had to have, yes.
I remember being on Concom at the time, and that's
Yeah.
what we were told.
Yeah. But whether
Yeah.
we'll hear anything back from that, I don't know, but.
Well, I can tell you in the Warren article, in the actual wording, there's a blurb in there about authorizing the selectmen and the CPC to put in for any and all grants to help alleviate the burden.
Okay.
So there's a blurb in there for that.
For 60K, the Concom could actually change that flume in there so they could actually raise and lower the water so we could actually freeze out the invasives. But,
Yeah,
Well, all you have to do is pull the stop logs.
yeah, but then nobody wants to do that. They think it's too much work. Yep, anyway. Gotcha. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
one more item on this spreadsheet. After going through the thing we did last year, I think it was my second year, but first year went pretty smooth. That last year was kind of a shaky process when we went all the way through and made one pass, and then ended up with some projects that we wanted to fund, but there was no money left. It seems a logical way to get around that would be to make a preliminary pass through and do the first level of allocation, see where you end up at the bottom, and then go through it one more time and make finals.
Well, you can do, you make your motions any way you wanna make them on, what is it? What night are we doing that? On February 18th, absolutely.
Well, is it a rigid process? I mean, I don't think,
Absolutely not. I mean, what we basically did, and I remember in years past, even past years when Peter was on the board, and Jimmy will tell you, basically what we do is we open it up. And we just say, start with the recommendations. And it's a free-for-all. I personally think that's the best
yeah,
way
but that's
to
not
do
the
it.
way it worked last year. At the end, we stopped. I mean, when we made one pass through it, and there wasn't enough money, we were done.
Well,
And
once
then-
you're out of money, you are done
Unless you go
someone
back and
makes a
do some
motion
horse
to
trading.
bond, in which case then,
But that wasn't even the right way to
Everything's
do that thing either.
well,
It wasn't.
I didn't vote for it,
No,
so I don't know
I
what
did
can
because
say.
it was
I'm
the
only one
only way
person.
we could get it.
I'm only one person, so I
Yeah.
only get one vote.
Well, that's not quite true.
But,
What you're
get
suggesting
more
is
than
not
one.
actually vote on an actual monetary dollar amount the first time through.
Oh, no, yeah, I think you would. And you
What
see what
Harry's saying is that by the time we do that, we're out.
well, the harsh reality is even though we got an 87% match this year from the state because of that $25 million surplus. Even though we got an 87% match, we had a lot of money last year that we hadn't spent from years prior.
yep.
And, well, basically, we blew it. We pretty much blew every penny.
We didn't blow every penny, we spent every penny.
Well, I mean,
We spent
we
wisely.
spent it well.
We spent
And we
wisely.
spent it well.
Well-
Very prudently.
Okay, one could argue that, but that's still, I mean, what we're looking at is how do we get through a process where everybody's more comfortable at the end than just making one quick through it? Because if you look at it logically, the way people work, until they start running out of money, they don't really look as carefully at something until, like I say, they're getting short of funds.
Are you saying that we don't want to go in necessarily this order?
Well, that would be one way to do it. Another way to
I've
do it
done
would
it
just be
in-
to go in a random order, but
Well, in years past, we have done it that way. I think that's, if we did it in what Harry has designated in this order, we might not have done it in years past. I know actually in years past, we did not go in any order. It was
Bear in
random.
mind that there's only an order on this sheet because this calculates numbers. And you had to have you had to have a historic category, you had to have an affordable housing category, you had to have an open space and recreation category. So they had to be broken out in that way, in the three groups.
I understand that, Harry.
And would you like to change, if you changed, you
No.
can change the order.
I just want, was I the only one uncomfortable after we got done last year? And we were at the end, and we had some projects that we couldn't even really vote on without doing something extraordinary like bond them, because there was no money.
Well, there's a harsh reality out there, Paul, that there isn't enough money sometimes for all the good projects that are out there. And
But how
that's
do you-
what this board is supposed to do. We're supposed to look at the projects prioritize them, and figure out which ones we can fund, to what level, given the fiduciary responsibility of maintaining the fund. And you have to make hard choices. Just because there's a bunch of people in the room all looking at us, we can't always make everybody happy. You know, you
But
gotta sort of.
you try to do the best you can.
Absolutely.
But the idea is that you make one pass through and you say, okay, this project's worth this much, that's that much, and you end up with a number at the bottom, and that's probably gonna be over where you were at. It seems
Yeah.
reasonable to go back then and see where can a further trimming occur that has the least amount of damage to what you're trying to achieve.
I can
kinda-
understand that.
Yeah.
But I personally do that before the meeting. I look at the projects that are important to me and say, okay, these are how, and some of them I say, I'm not gonna vote if it gets over that amount of money, like the 62,000, I'm telling you right now, I will not vote for 62,000 I will vote positively for that project, but I have a number in mind. So, I mean, and I go through and I look at, but like you said, something else gets voted that's, I had on my not vote list, I adjust my opinion of what's the next, I mean, it is a tough, I know what you're saying, it is a tough,
Well, if you went through two passes, it gives you a chance to rationalize a little further and say, okay, well, we made these trade-offs, now maybe, if I want to look at them again, I want to maybe do a little slicing and dicing a little bit differently. And we could end up with something that's a little more valuable at the end. So we don't have to do things like bond a CR and things of that nature, because we shouldn't have to do that.
I didn't vote for it. I don't know. You do whatever you guys want to do.
If I can, I mean, plus, you're voting on something to bring to town meeting. And it was a tough night there too, I think, for a lot of individuals. I mean, I had no idea on what I was gonna do, my mind made up on another, and voted completely opposite on it after hearing everybody at town meeting floor. So, I mean, I think the board did their best last year with some tough projects in front of them. I do think there was one project, and that was a turf thing, and it was sort of like, we need to know we've got this money going forward, couldn't do it. I mean, it was a
Yeah.
big project, and I think that was you had one big project in front of you that, how are you gonna handle it? I think the board did their best as to, I wasn't crazy about this board going out on bond on something I never did before neither, and I would hope that, you can avoid it in the future.
Yeah, well, there's cases where, like, if you're gonna go out for something that's $1 million, or, you're gonna probably have to bond, there's not that kind of money sitting around. But when you come down to $100,000 for a CR, you shouldn't have, if you really wanna do this thing, 150, whatever,
Okay.
you shouldn't have to really bond that. I mean, we did it because it's the only way to make
Okay,
things
so I see,
work.
it's that one that you're looking at.
Well, no, but it was just if we went through it again, would we have ended up in the same place? I don't know.
Can I ask something? And I mean, in the past, I've tried to make a couple of your meetings every year before I was on the board, so I have some idea. But, do you have any idea of, in the past, how the money's been spent? I mean, like a good, I know up at the top, you've got a certain amount that you've gotta do every year to each one. But,
The reservation.
is there, like, does the money more go towards open space and things of that than it does historic? Do you do a good job at keeping it pretty much equally divided? Or,
Can't tell you. I don't know.
yeah,
I
you'd
don't
have
know.
to go
I've never
back and
broke
look
it
at
down.
everything,
Yeah.
right, and
Never
see
looked
if
at
it's,
just the last, 10, 12
you know,
years.
it'd be interesting
Big
to me
question for
perhaps
the,
to know whether
maybe the
it's,
treasurer, the town
historically,
treasurer
it's
can
been
answer that.
going more towards one area than the others.
because there've been a couple conservation restrictions, a couple of open space purchases over the last 5 years.
Traditionally, the land purchases are very expensive.
Yeah,
Land
well, we
purchases.
got back some money out of one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, you do
seven-
get some
70,000,
additional
yeah.
state matches on
Yeah.
them, which is nice, and
Yeah.
that makes it sort of, I mean, it's tough when you know you're gonna be getting this possibly, gee whiz, but,
Paul, I'm just trying to understand what you mean by open round, the first round without voting. So you mean maybe brainstorm
It's a
And
form.
before
it's
we
a-
actually vote on a monetary amount.
Well, the nice thing about having a spreadsheet is if you have a computer with you or whatever, you're filling them in as it goes along, you can see the bottom as it's
Right, and it's
changing.
changed, right.
Right, and you can see you're gonna be in trouble. But if you didn't have that, if you were just wagging it and putting in numbers, you may not even know you're out of money until maybe Harry says, whoop, we're broke.
Right.
And so
That's why.
you might wanna
why we
go
have to
at
do it
that point, say,
this
go
way.
back and I'd like to actually take a little bit out of here, but that's where the
Well,
discussion would come
the
in.
difficult part about that is, I mean, well, let's just say X, Y, Z, a project that says that they need $62,000. And
Yeah.
I'm just using that as an example, I'm not
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about the Vista View. But say they need 62, and that's a real number, it's a good number. Now, we can't go through the other ones and say, well, we'll just give them 20. We'll give them
Right,
20.
because then you ruin the whole
Because
project.
you'll give them 20,000, but the reality is, project's
do
not
it.
gonna move forward.
Can't do it.
That 20,000 is appropriated, and it's locked into that for the
Maybe-
next 3 years.
Maybe that's what we have to do before we actually go for the vote, is to have the individual member saying, you know, for instance, I'm thinking item 1, I'm not giving them, I'm thinking item 2, I'm thinking item 3, just a general,
Well,
Or
that's
if I may,
basically,
like the housing authority roofs, where they looking for 3 roofs, all the roofs, you could possibly say, you need to do them all this year. Could you
Right.
do 2 instead of 5? I mean, I don't know exactly what
the
the.
previous years we've
number
done that,
was.
we've
It's-
divided the roofs up by
Okay, so,
years.
so you have worked, see, and I think that's what you're.
that's
some of
another
them,
way
yeah.
of doing the same kind of a thing. It gives
Right.
you a
Like a
plan.
round robin.
Yeah, you have an opportunity to say, oh, here's what the impact is. Did I really wanna do it exactly like that? And that would be the collective.
And you
Right.
might also be able to say, well, you know, we're really behind this, but we can't see the funding for it this year.
And wait for next year,
Yeah.
which, I mean, there's no sin in that. And the reality is, if the need is.
Depends on what the project is.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
if the
If
need
it
is so
can't-
very
if it
great,
can't
I mean,
wait,
it can always go,
That's one thing.
write an initiative petition, or go to the CIP, ask the CIP for money. Ask the select board if they put it on the warrant. I mean, funding can still come out of the general fund.
Yep.
Or
This
you-
isn't the only source of money in Georgetown.
I think
Capital
extracting,
improvements meeting tomorrow night, I believe.
Absolutely, and there's a bunch of money in that fund now, over a couple hundred
Yes,
thousand
we've
in
been
that
able to
now.
fund it a little,
Yeah.
yes.
Been getting regular funding from,
have
free
they spent
cash
any of it?
over and over again.
I think last year that we didn't put anything on a warrant because there was nothing really in front of us, or did we? That's been a problem for me. No, I've not been happy with the way it's been coming in front of us,
Uh,
so.
I just remember there was, I didn't feel good after the last session, and I know Carl didn't feel real good about it either. So,
I didn't feel good because it got voted in. So, I mean, we all have some feelings of some
Well,
projects.
we do.
All I can
So,
say is,
it's
I've
good
been
to
on a
know
lot
we
of
all didn't
boards
feel good at some
for
point.
a lot of times, and what you need to do is you need to look at these things, decide for yourself, and do not let the crowd make your decision. Ever. Ever let the crowd make the decision for you. Make your decision, stick with it. I'm not saying you can't listen to reason and a good argument, but don't let crowd pressure change you, because then you're gonna make, decisions that you'll regret later.
I would disagree with that, Harry. I think that's where you have to be flexible. Because if you have projects of equal worth, and it depends on, it's the eyes of the beholder, really. what their
Absolutely,
worth
that's why
is.
you're a single vote.
Yeah.
Yep.
As I'm a single vote, as all of us are single votes.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that by all of us voting, at some point, the collective wisdom of the board will prevail.
And the town.
Yeah.
And then
Because the
has
town
another
ended up
vote.
voting, and the
Absolutely.
town voted for both of them.
Absolutely.
And in hindsight, year one, we are okay with
Yep.
debt service with both of the the warrants and the bonds and
I'm happy because they both got discussed.
exactly.
Absolutely.
I think I hear what Harry's saying. I mean, I think what you're saying is, I mean, don't vote to please the crowd, but I mean, somebody in the crowd may change your vote as to
Absolutely,
how you feel.
sure.
You know, you think, oh, I
Sure.
wasn't aware of that, and now you're gonna, that's exactly what happened to me at the town meeting floor on, you know, so, I mean, yeah, I mean, I certainly don't wanna vote on anything just to please the people out there if I'm not behind it. I mean, although they are the townspeople also, and I mean, it is ultimately their money, but,
Well, yeah,
And that's
but
where they get to say at town meeting floor, so.
we have an additional responsibility. We have to think of the fund,
Right.
Yes.
okay? And it's nice to make sure a project moves forward, that's a nice project, but you also might have to say, can that wait a year? Can that wait 2 years? If it means that you're hitting the fund hard. And this year, we don't have a lot of money to deal with,
Yeah.
so,
And you
Which
may,
is
you
gonna happen.
know, perhaps.
tough decisions.
You guys know better than me, perhaps sometimes even you wanna bank more than you can, because you know some of the projects coming forward, might be more. You know,
I'm not
We're
sure.
not really,
as you had said, usually open space purchases take a little more than perhaps.
That's right, I
what
mean,
you could-
I
so
look at
if
that
you-
as, I personally like to build the fund up a little bit to get, for the potential 2 or 3 years for an open space purchase or another CR. So I'm gonna be, some of my own projects, I'm gonna
So-
be hard on even my own projects this year, because I think there's some good projects that, you know, that have been presented, and some of them maybe can wait. And, you know, you'll find that I think you'll see there's some projects that I've presented that I'm not sure I can support this year. So, I mean, you know, you know, it's,
when you present them on behalf of someone.
Yeah, no, but I've done budgets years and years and years. I was in high-tech management for a long, long time. And we never, ever, ever did a single pass budget. It never, ever worked like that. You always went through at least 2 or 3 passes on a budget. Of course, you're talking about millions of dollars there too, but it's a little bit different. But the process seems like it should be the same. There should be a way to rethink or review, relook at where you're at after you go through one pass.
Well, it's an open
It is,
process.
it is. But
Well, I
last-
mean,
last year it
If you have a
wasn't. We
better way of
stopped.
doing it, let's
do
go
you think
for
we
it.
should go
Let's
through
try
the
it.
first time and make a vote on projects we don't wanna discuss? And then look at the only, then.
That'd be
you know,
way,
the first round?
that'd be one way to do it, yeah.
Could move to take some right off the table from the very beginning.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
a thought, yeah.
That might alter
point.
people's numbers,
Excellent point.
you know, say, you know, let's make a recommendation to remove this project, and then people vote on it, let's make a recommendation, and only removing projects, then people can adjust their tally by what they just heard.
There's one other thing I would highly recommend on, what is it, March 4th there? Be here,
Be here, yeah.
because,
Yeah.
I think 5 people decided this last year.
So March 4th is the day we're actually gonna do the vote.
Yes.
I've seen that, and I apologize for not.
Final, project recommendation and amounts vote, March 4th.
And so what's the 18th?
Unless you'd like to accelerate this.
No, but what's the
And I mean,
18th?
that is the next one. You know, that's the next bullet meeting, and gee, look at that, that's the last thing on the agenda for tonight to discuss, actually. Do you wanna modify this? Do you wanna, and I'm especially looking to Gary at this point, and I would have done that if Ed Doobie had been here, because frequently the review by, the FinCom, review by the closing of the warrant, things like that. If we want to accelerate this, we might want to, I don't know. This all works out on the calendar. I don't know if this causes any
Yeah, you know,
acid to drip in anybody's stomach with respect to getting the warrant reviewed and having the numbers in on time, etc. It's always worked out well, and there's always been plenty of time when we pretty much ran on that schedule.
Yeah, you know, March 4th, I think this year, we might be able to move it. When I say up, I mean into February, into February maybe.
Well, we just told Rick that he was, February 18th was gonna be the monitoring
Yeah,
review.
See,
But,
but you could also email them that you've made a change. I'm just wondering on the discussion, what you just said, and if there's a way somewhere in there you can see of putting in there projects that you feel you may wanna drop. I mean, if there's,
Certainly open on the
if there's
table,
something
anybody
in
wants
there,
to.
I mean, do you, well, I've not been here in the past. I mean, do you see a timeline where they might go, where that might work? I mean,
We could do it on, we could do that on, oh, I'm looking at it right now, February 4th is our next meeting. It's for review of project suggestions. If there are no project suggestions, we could take the night off. I mean, unless we have some bills to pay. If you wanna bump it up and do a quick monetary review.
For your first review, yeah.
But keep in mind, I mean, we won't have some of these numbers back. You know, you won't have one set of numbers back.
Can I ask a question,
Like
Mr.
to
Chairman?
throw everything.
What, so February 4th, we have an open, meeting, and so then the next meeting is the 18th, and that is the monetary review, and
That's it.
exactly what exactly is the monetary review?
Basically, we'll start talking about the issues that Paul was
Okay,
discussing.
all right, so we're gonna start
How we're
actually
gonna decide
putting,
this.
putting real numbers next to
Just
these.
some real numbers, but final votes, as far as project recommendations and the amount vote, I have that for March 4th.
I will
My-
not,
you know,
I
my-
will not be here on March 4th.
You won't be here on March
So
4th?
could we, on that day, vote perhaps on projects that we feel should be dropped
Why not?
at that
Gary,
time?
this is an open meeting.
Yeah.
You make a motion, and someone else on this board seconds it, and you get a plurality of, a majority of the votes, it's done.
Because I mean,
It's done. At that point, we pull it off. If the board doesn't wanna recommend, they don't recommend it. And that might help other projects. I mean, certainly, someone will go away with tears and a handkerchief, but other ones will probably have the money that they need to fund. So,
I think at
you
some
have to make
point
tough decisions.
I like at
That's
some
life.
point to go, I still have questions on 2 or 3 of these projects that, just general questions, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe at some point we just have general discussions on some of
Mm-hmm.
them. For instance, the roof, 77,000 is fine, but I'm saying is, what is, once again, I'm saying is that a real sharp number, you know? Was that based on the quote? And-
I will get that back to you.
No, it's because, I mean, I'd like to see that one more time, a
Yep.
quote, one more time before I go
Yep.
ahead and make the decision.
Yep.
The paving, I have questions with you, that paving, what that distance really, what is final, the paving for Camp Dennison.
Oh, well,
You know what
not
I mean,
me.
I mean, is that something that, you know, I mean, I have general decisions. is
Paul
that-
isn't on Concom anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry, Paul, you're right, but I'm saying is, well, the Concom member, if he was here, I'd say to him, what's your feeling of your board?
Good luck asking
You know,
Cal.
what's the distance again, and how many, what was your vote? Was it, you know, unanimous or 3-2? General question.
I look
you
at it
know?
this way, if I don't have an answer, I don't vote for it.
Well, right, but
Very
I,
simple, I mean, I can't support something I don't have information about.
Yeah.
but I would stretch to ask Paul if he knew anything, and then.
And I would say, yes, I did, because I talked to Steve about the same
Okay.
thing, because I had the same kind of feelings, and if he feels comfortable that what they're gonna be doing is the right thing, it's not gonna cause any leaching of the asphalt into the creek or anything like that, and it will enhance the ability of people to use that facility, so.
Okay.
Why hasn't he sent us that? He was supposed to get that and send
Oh,
that
I
to
don't
us.
know, I don't know. I happened to be here, I was talking to Howard and talked to Steve for a few minutes
And
too.
on that subject, if, that's good to know, and the other, second question would have been, why was TriPac not dropped off as a choice? It's too much maintenance, it wasn't gonna help the maintenance, it was, you know, that's all, cause it's a natural area, and you're just going from a
Yeah.
tarred surface. You know, just general questions like that, just, I think we're gonna go up to this vote period, and we're gonna have these little questions, and maybe at some point, we
Yeah.
just start go through them and say, okay, this is what I have open. This is what I'm thinking is an open issue.
That's why it's supposed to be a
Did we have a
rep.
final quote?
Huh?
Did we have a final quote?
I don't know. I mean, that's why there's supposed to be a rep from every one of the organizations that wants to tap into the fund to be able to supply those answers. I'm just giving you hearsay that I got.
Exactly, yeah. I'm saying before we get to this last vote, maybe we go one more time, and these are some of the general questions we're asking these people to give us before, if they want us to be informed on our vote, because
So that
most of my uninformed votes are no. You know, I mean. Okay,
Well, Steve was supposed to get back to us,
Okay, I'll send him an email because
Month ago.
that's
and we haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
I interpret that as a lack of support from the commission,
yeah. No, I was
because that
concerned
was the
too.
question. Did the commission support it? And
Yeah, let me.
I don't know what the vote was. if
I
they voted.
will.
I would presume we get something
Yeah.
on letterhead, the same way we get a
So something
recommendation for
from
historic on.
Steve would be okay.
Pardon?
Something from Steve would be okay.
He can make oath that they voted a
Okay.
certain way.
All right.
Certainly, of course. That's all we're looking for, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'm assuming that at the final, the meeting that we make the final votes to vote these warrants, vote these projects onto the warrant, you can still we can we can make any motion we want to pass these forward, right? We could change the monetary amounts even at that point after the monetary review is complete, or no?
Well, after the monetary review, on March 4th, but we do have to lock down some serious numbers and get the warrant article in.
Okay,
And what we end up doing is we submit them right after that.
I see, okay.
Once we submit them, they go to town council, and they come back.
So the monetary review isn't just a monetary review, it's a list of projects with price tags on them that are ready for approval at the next meeting.
No, the project recommendation and amount vote on March 4th, that's it. That's when we actually say, someone will say, I make a motion to recommend the XYZ project in the amount of 315 pennies, and someone either seconds it or it dies, and we vote on it.
And
Basically, that's,
is this your first year through? Just,
Yeah, since
no, sometimes,
2003.
just so you know, sometimes I've made a recommendation, 100,000, and no one's voted on it, and then someone makes a recommendation for 20,000, and so it's a fairly involved
On the
process.
final vote?
Well, right after the vote, that they don't approve 100, they think that's crazy, they approve some
Right.
other number. So it goes on and on, I mean, it's a,
Or they ask
And
why.
someone could do it as late as at town meeting floor.
you can
Right.
lower it at town meeting
You
floor.
can't, right.
You can't raise it,
right.
Right.
Is-
absolutely.
Do you suspect that the board would vote? Are we voting on this warrant by warrant? Because I'm thinking about what Paul's saying, and I'm kind of thinking about this, what this monetary review meeting is going to be. And so we're going to come in. Some of the projects might get wiped off right at the very beginning, and so now that changes the scope of your review. And then you're kind of looking at it in the whole and saying, this is the amount of money we think we have, and this is how we're going to delegate that money. And so you kind of walking out of there with some soft amounts, right? But then when you actually go to vote these in, it's not just a single vote. It's each warrant article is getting its own separate vote by the
Yes.
board.
Each project
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
gets a recommendation
Okay.
and an amount
Right.
of the recommendation.
Okay,
And then we plug that into the warrant article.
I get you.
With discussion and all that.
Oh, sure, yeah,
Yeah.
right, right.
But
I
you
was
have
just
to-
wondering if we just, I don't know, I just trying to
Sometimes we've all
see
been
how
in
it's gonna
favor of a
fall in
warrant
place.
article, and it's taken 3 votes, because we've never been in, we didn't have an agreement on the amount,
Right,
you know, so,
sure.
The amount's the tough part.
yeah.
The amount usually is the tough part.
Oh, yeah.
Can I ask a question of Jim on a presentation from your board 2 weeks ago, I guess it was. And I went home, driving home, questioning. Part of the project that Juliet, I believe, had brought forward for your board,
Sure.
and it was a past, well, how do I get to this? It was talk about doing something on a volunteer basis, part of it. And she put it as, they told us that, I don't know if she used the word they. Who was it that she said that it's too much liability and
There
we
was
can't?
2 parts of it, one was the removal of the equipment, and then
Yeah.
the putting in of the new equipment. From my understanding from her, Mike Farrell, and the people in town government weren't in favor of volunteers removing the telephone poles, and that it was, the weight of it, there was too much liability.
I
of someone
guess that
getting
was the
hurt.
word she said, the town government was afraid.
Right, and
And
I-
I wanna know, who
and-
was that town government?
My assertion was her sitting down with Mike Farrell,
Must
that
have
he
been the
was,
mayor.
he was the person that was concerned with the town liability factor with the removal, and that maybe it should be done with someone like Peter or his crew. And that's my, you know, I think I'm pretty close, so that's what was the discussion.
That sounds like it might be close.
And truthfully, I think he might have a point, but I think he didn't say you couldn't put it in, but I thought he said, you know, a lot of stuff is underground, there's a lot of things, a lot of telephone poles, and,
Makes
No.
sense to me.
yeah, maybe, yeah, I mean,
Well, some of it makes sense, but there's much, you know, sometimes you do wanna do things with, if you can save the town money with a volunteer basis,
absolutely.
and it seems like
If it
it's
can be
getting
done that way.
harder and harder to do, just like the gentleman that was here, oh, I thought we could just go in with some chainsaws and, you know, and there was a day when maybe you could, but, and it's too bad that we're getting away from that so much, and I guess my question, and as a Board of Selectmen member, and as a member here, when I was going home, was, well, who was it that was saying that, no, you shouldn't do it? I mean, who led you down that path that, and as you say, maybe your board decided
What gets me with this
So,
fence
I mean,
re-
was it your board, because it really wasn't so much presented as your board made the decision. It
Right.
was presented more as your board got told it's not a wise decision, and we'd rather you didn't.
The other side of that, you know, and I look at the same thing, I mean, someone like Abbott Eaton and a Crane and 5 guys that know what they're doing who are volunteers who've done it before could probably do that. You wouldn't want some,
Agreed.
someone who's never put a hammer in their hands, you know. It's the same thing with the fence removal, the 62,000 for the fence
That's
removal.
kind of why I'm
I
asking
think
this.
I think a couple of guys with some general basic ideas that won't stub their toes can probably take that fence out.
Couple sawzalls.
But you know, it's probably taking out the fence is probably 15,000-20,000 of that $62,000 cost. I mean, really? Come on. I mean, like I said, I could with a sawzall, I could,
Couple sawzalls, you could drop it on a Friday night.
you know.
I mean, on a day.
I mean, 20 years ago, we could find someone to steal that fence for nothing. You know, but I mean, those are the issues I agree with. Why is the town paying $15,000 or something to take a fence down that any moron could take down? And I'm sorry, I mean, it's really, that's what we're paying for now. Some of those issues they're always there. All
Is
right.
there any business that wishes to be brought to the attention of the committee by a member or a participant of the audience?
Yeah. I would say the next 3 weeks are gonna be interesting,
Yeah.
to say the least.
Oh, next 3 meetings, absolutely. 3 or 4 meetings, yeah. Would someone like to make a motion
So, Mayor, what should we
to
adjourn?
adjourn? Is that you,
Motion to
Paul?
adjourn.
Yep. Seconded, Peter?
Second.
All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Yeah, motion carries. Thank you, everybody. See you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Adjournment is at, what time is this, folks? At
8:57.